Have you ever been humiliated in front of others, cut down by a sarcastic remark or a so-called harmless joke that left you speechless? That sting isn't just in your head, and you're not alone. But here's the uncomfortable truth. People who humiliate others in public aren't just being playful. They're making a statement, and it says more about them than it ever will about you. In this video, we're exposing 6 real reasons why some people go out of their way to embarrass others, and how you can use Stoic philosophy to stay grounded, calm, and completely unshaken. Because once you understand their motives, you'll never look at public humiliation the same way again. You won't feel crushed, you'll feel in control. So stick around until the end. We're not just decoding their behavior, we're giving you the Stoic tools to rise above it all with quiet strength. If you're ready to reclaim your power, hit that like button, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom, and let's dive in. Number 1, they sense weakness. Humiliation is not always about you. It often reveals far more about the person delivering the blow than the one receiving it. Still, when you are on the receiving end, when someone makes a biting remark in front of others, when laughter echoes and you feel your face flush with embarrassment, it feels personal, it feels targeted, and in a way it is. Some people are constantly testing their environment, looking for a social hierarchy they can climb at any cost. They aren't necessarily evil, but they've learned that dominance gives them a feeling of control, and they believe that the easiest way to assert it is by identifying those who seem unsure of themselves. If your tone is timid, your body language hesitant, your gaze uncertain, they zero in. Because to them, that's not just uncertainty, it's an opportunity. They're looking for someone who won't fight back, someone who won't push back, someone who might just accept the jab as truth. That's why they humiliate you in public, because it's not just about insulting you, it's about observing how you respond under pressure. Will you fold? Will you shrink? Will you question yourself? In psychological terms, this is called dominance testing. It's the subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, behavior used by individuals to figure out where they stand in a group. And if they can humiliate you and watch you crumble, they feel validated, powerful, superior. But this is exactly where the Stoics offer an antidote. The Stoics taught that we are not disturbed by events themselves, but by our opinions about them. Epictetus reminds us, "It is not he who reviles or strikes you who insults you, but your opinion that these things are insulting." In other words, if someone mocks you, but you do not internalize it, then you remain untouched. The words bounce off. The laughter fades, and you remain steady. This doesn't mean you pretend to be unbothered. It means you train your mind to be unbothered. You condition your inner world to be so strong, so grounded, that no amount of external mockery can shake it. That's not apathy. That's true power. Take Eleanor Roosevelt. Not just as a historical figure, but as a Stoic example in modern times. She was called ugly by journalists, mannish by critics, and unfit by opponents. In a time when women were expected to be silent and ornamental, she chose to be outspoken, intelligent, and principled, and she paid the price for it in public ridicule. But did she fight back with insults? No. Did she allow their words to silence her? Absolutely not. She kept speaking. She kept advocating. She kept showing up because she understood what Stoics have always known. The opinions of others only define you if you let them. She famously said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." That quote may not be from a Stoic philosopher, but it is Stoicism in action. And it's a reminder that your self-worth is not up for debate. It is not subject to public opinion. It is not something that can be destroyed by a sarcastic joke or a cruel comment, unless you surrender it. You see, the moment you react in anger or shame, the moment you lash out or withdraw, you validate their tactic. You confirm their suspicion that you don't fully own who you are. But when you remain calm, when you maintain eye contact, hold your posture, and let their words pass through you as if they were wind through an open window, you win. You don't win by dominating back. You win by refusing to be dominated. In the eyes of the Stoics, strength is not about appearing fearless. It's about being rooted. It's about knowing that your value is intrinsic and cannot be given or taken away by anyone else. It is yours, by virtue of your character, your actions, and your ability to govern yourself. So the next time someone tries to humiliate you by sensing what they believe is weakness, remember, they're not revealing something about you. They're revealing something about themselves, their need to dominate, their lack of inner peace, their own insecurity. And when you respond not with rage, not with retreat, but with unmoved clarity, you've already taken back the power they were so desperate to claim. Because that's what Stoicism teaches us at its core. You can't always stop people from attacking you, but you can always choose whether or not you let them land a blow. And when you master that choice, nothing can humiliate you ever again. Number 2, they want control. One of the most common, and yet most misunderstood, reasons people humiliate others in front of a crowd is a desperate desire to feel in control. This need for control goes beyond a mere social power play. It often stems from deep insecurity and inner turmoil. When someone publicly mocks or belittles you, what they are really trying to do is establish dominance, to assert that they are the ones in charge of the situation. It's a way of managing their own feelings of helplessness by exerting power over someone else's emotional state. But why is this need so intense that it drives people to humiliate others? The answer lies in a fragile ego seeking validation. In many cases, those who humiliate are struggling internally with feelings of inadequacy or vulnerability. By making someone else feel small or inferior, they temporarily elevate their own status. The public setting of humiliation is no accident. It's designed to maximize their sense of power by forcing others to witness the dynamic. The more witnesses, the greater the reinforcement of their control. From a Stoic perspective, this behavior reveals a fundamental misunderstanding of what true power is. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, understood that external control is always limited and unstable. He wrote extensively about the distinction between what is within our power and what is not. According to Stoicism, real power comes from mastering oneself, our perceptions, our judgments, and our responses, not from controlling others. Trying to dominate others through humiliation is a sign of internal weakness, not strength. When you encounter someone trying to assert control by humiliating you, it's crucial to recognize that their actions say far more about their own insecurity than about your worth. The ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This means that no matter how loud or cutting the humiliation, it only gains power over you if you give it that power. Take the example of Nelson Mandela, a figure who embodies Stoic resilience. Mandela endured relentless public humiliation, imprisonment, and oppression for nearly 3 decades. Yet, he never allowed his captors to rob him of his inner dignity or self-mastery. Despite being powerless in the external world, he maintained absolute control over his mind and spirit. Mandela's ability to remain calm, composed, and unwavering in the face of humiliation ultimately undermined the very control his oppressors sought to wield. His dignity shone so brightly that it inspired a nation to rethink what true power means. In practical terms, this means that when someone tries to humiliate you for control, your greatest power lies in your response, or deliberate lack thereof. Rather than reacting with anger, shame, or defensiveness, Stoicism invites you to cultivate a calm, steady mind that cannot be shaken by their attempts. By choosing not to engage, by refusing to grant them the reaction they seek, you strip away their influence. You demonstrate a strength that is both quiet and profound. Moreover, maintaining your composure in the face of humiliation sends a powerful message to everyone watching, including the person trying to dominate you. It signals that you are anchored in your own values and self-worth, immune to manipulation or petty power plays. This is the true mastery that Stoicism champions, not the illusion of control over others, but the reality of control over oneself. In the end, remember that people who humiliate others to feel in control are fighting an internal battle you cannot see. Their actions are born out of fear and weakness, not genuine power. By embodying Stoic principles, self-control, wisdom, and resilience, you not only protect your own peace of mind, but also dismantle their attempts at domination. No one can take your power away unless you willingly hand it over. When you recognize this, you reclaim your sovereignty and transform humiliation from a weapon into a lesson in personal strength. And that, above all, is the Stoic way to rise above those who seek to control you through humiliation. Number 3, they envy you. Envy is one of the most insidious and misunderstood reasons behind why people humiliate others. When someone publicly belittles or mocks you, it may not be about you at all. It may be a reflection of their own jealousy and insecurity. Your strengths, successes, or confidence can inadvertently shine a harsh light on their perceived weaknesses, failures, or unfulfilled ambitions. Instead of feeling inspired or motivated by your achievements, they feel threatened and react by trying to drag you down. This response is less about you and more about their own inner struggle with feelings of inadequacy and self-doubt. From the Stoic perspective, envy is a destructive emotion that disrupts both the envier and the envied. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, warned that envy poisons the soul by diverting attention away from what truly matters, our own character and virtue, and fixating it on comparisons with others. Envy arises from a failure to accept what is beyond our control and an unhealthy attachment to external success or status. When someone envies you, they are trapped in this destructive cycle, unable to appreciate their own worth or cultivate their own growth. The history of human achievement is littered with examples where talented and successful individuals were targets of envy-fueled humiliation. Consider Vincent van Gogh, whose brilliance was largely unrecognized during his lifetime. His contemporaries often dismissed and mocked his work, not because it lacked merit, but because his exceptional talent exposed their own limitations and insecurities. Their envy turned to scorn, and their humiliation attempts were a defense mechanism against feeling overshadowed or inadequate. Envy-driven humiliation can take many forms, from sarcastic remarks and backhanded compliments to outright public ridicule. When you understand that these actions stem from envy, it becomes easier to detach emotionally and not take their words personally. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations that we should remain indifferent to the opinions of others, especially when those opinions are born from malice, envy, or ignorance. Your true worth is grounded in your character and actions, not in how others react to your success. The Stoic approach encourages turning envy into an opportunity for reflection and growth. Instead of reacting with bitterness or anger, cultivate gratitude for your own journey. Focus on improving yourself rather than proving others wrong. Envy is a sign of someone's inner struggle, but it doesn't have to become your burden. By maintaining your composure and confidence, you not only disarm their attempts to undermine you, but also demonstrate a strength that envy cannot penetrate. Moreover, Stoicism teaches us to value virtue over external achievements. Real success lies in wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control, qualities that envy cannot tarnish. When you embody these virtues, external criticism, especially born from envy, loses its power. You become like a rock that remains unmoved by the waves of jealousy crashing around it. Understanding that envy fuels humiliation allows you to see through the behavior and respond with empathy rather than hostility. The person humiliating you is caught in their own painful battle. They seek to harm others to momentarily soothe their own dissatisfaction. Recognizing this frees you from the emotional weight of their actions and empowers you to rise above. In summary, when someone humiliates you out of envy, remember that their words reveal more about their internal struggles than about your value. Use Stoic wisdom to maintain your peace, focus on your own growth, and continue walking your path with dignity. In doing so, you transform humiliation into a testament of your resilience and self-mastery, true marks of strength that no envy can diminish. Number 4, you haven't set boundaries. One of the most overlooked but critical reasons people experience humiliation in front of others is a lack of clear boundaries. When you don't establish and communicate what behavior is acceptable to you, you unintentionally leave yourself vulnerable to disrespect and manipulation. People who seek to humiliate often test the waters to see how far they can push you before you push back. Without firm boundaries, they perceive an open door to invade your personal space, undermine your dignity, and chip away at your confidence over time. The Stoics understood the importance of self-discipline and self-respect in maintaining one's inner fortress. Epictetus, a former slave turned philosopher, emphasized the power we have over our own minds and choices, stating, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." This wisdom is especially relevant when it comes to setting boundaries. While you cannot control others' actions, you can control what you allow and how you respond. Setting boundaries is an exercise of your rational will. It is you deciding what treatment you accept and what you reject. Historically, Marcus Aurelius offers a profound example of boundary setting grounded in virtue and self-mastery. Although he was the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, he was not immune to criticism or attempts to belittle him. Yet, he maintained an unwavering clarity about his own values and refused to let the opinions or insults of others disrupt his peace of mind or integrity. His boundaries were not just external. He didn't need to shout or retaliate, but internal, governed by his commitment to living according to reason and virtue. This inner boundary gave him an unshakable foundation against humiliation and external chaos alike. In daily life, failing to set boundaries can manifest in subtle but damaging ways. Maybe you laugh off a cutting joke because it feels easier than confrontation. Maybe you stay silent when someone crosses a line out of fear of conflict or rejection. Or perhaps you avoid asserting yourself because you worry about how others will perceive you. Unfortunately, this silence or passivity often encourages repeated offenses. People learn that their humiliating behavior meets no resistance and feels no consequence, so they continue or escalate it, eroding your self-esteem bit by bit. Your lack of boundaries becomes, in a way, an invitation. Stoicism teaches us that true strength is not about aggression or dominance, but about calm assertiveness and knowing your worth. When you set boundaries, you don't need to be loud or defensive. You only need to be firm and clear. It is an act of self-respect and wisdom to communicate, calmly and confidently, what you will not tolerate. This protects your emotional well-being and upholds your dignity. After all, how others treat you is not always within your control, but what you allow is always within your power. By defining your limits, you remove the playground from those who seek to humiliate you. You make it clear without drama or hostility that certain behaviors are unacceptable. This discourages others from testing your resolve and compels respect in your relationships, whether personal or professional. Importantly, setting boundaries doesn't alienate people if done with integrity and kindness. It actually teaches others how to treat you with the respect you deserve. Furthermore, setting boundaries aligns with the Stoic ideal of living in accordance with nature and reason. It reflects an understanding that you are a rational being worthy of dignity, not a doormat for others' insecurities or cruelty. Boundaries safeguard your tranquility by preventing others' negative actions from disturbing your inner peace. Ultimately, failing to set boundaries doesn't just leave you open to humiliation. It diminishes your sense of self-worth over time. But when you learn to protect yourself through clear, calm, and consistent boundaries, humiliation loses its power. You reclaim your agency and demonstrate a quiet strength that even those who seek to belittle you cannot undermine. So, if you want to rise above humiliation, start by examining where your boundaries are unclear or weak. Reflect on what you will accept and what you won't, and communicate this confidently. This is one of the simplest yet most profound ways to cultivate inner strength and ensure that your dignity remains intact no matter the behavior of others. Remember, your boundaries are not just rules for others. They are acts of self-love and Stoic wisdom in action. When you hold your ground with clarity and calm, you protect your soul from the corrosive effects of humiliation and move closer to the Stoic ideal of an unshakable mind. Number 5. They seek an audience. One of the most overlooked yet profound reasons people humiliate others in public is their desire for an audience. When someone chooses to put you down in front of others, their true motive often extends beyond the act itself. They crave attention, validation, and social dominance. Humiliation becomes a spectacle, a performance intended to entertain or influence those watching. The crowd's reaction, whether laughter, shock, or awkward silence, fuels their sense of power. In essence, the humiliator's true goal is not just to hurt you, but to elevate themselves by asserting superiority before witnesses. This dynamic is deeply rooted in human psychology and social behavior. People who seek an audience when humiliating others often have fragile self-esteem. They use public shaming as a way to mask their insecurities, to momentarily fill a void of self-worth by gaining the approval or dominance over a group. The more people they draw into the act, the more powerful they feel. This is why humiliation in public settings, whether in a workplace, social gathering, or online, is often far more intense and damaging than private insults. Stoicism offers crucial insight here. The philosophy teaches that the only things truly within our control are our own thoughts, choices, and actions, not the opinions or applause of others. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic emperors, reminds us that the judgment of others should be met with indifference because their opinions depend on external factors beyond our influence. When someone humiliates you publicly, they are appealing to the crowd's reaction. Their power depends on how the audience responds. If the audience laughs or supports them, they gain confidence. If they meet calm indifference or quiet dignity, their act loses its force. This is why the Stoic sage strives to cultivate apatheia, a state of being unaffected by external events and opinions. When you develop this mental fortress, the humiliator's spectacle no longer holds sway over your emotions. You see their behavior for what it is: a desperate performance driven by insecurity and a need for validation. You understand that their power is not inherent in their words or actions, but in your reaction and the crowd's response. Historically, public humiliation has long been used as a tool of social control and domination. In ancient Rome, public shaming was a formalized punishment intended to disgrace the individual and simultaneously reinforce societal norms through communal observation. Fast forward to the modern era, and the rise of social media has transformed this dynamic exponentially. Public shaming now happens on a global scale, with humiliating comments, videos, or memes instantly broadcast to millions. The crowd, which once gathered in a physical forum, now exists virtually, and the humiliator's thirst for an audience has never been more voracious. Understanding this makes you aware that the humiliator is essentially playing to a crowd. seeking to manipulate social perception and gain influence. But the moment you refuse to feed this spectacle, by remaining calm, composed, and refusing to engage emotionally, you disrupt the humiliator's game. You deny them the reaction they crave, and without that fuel, their performance falls flat. This is a profound Stoic strategy. Control what is within your power, including your emotional responses, and become indifferent to what lies outside your control, like others' opinions or social validation. Moreover, this awareness invites reflection on the audience itself. Often, bystanders may feel uncomfortable witnessing humiliation, but do nothing, sometimes even laughing or encouraging the humiliator out of social pressure or fear. Stoicism not only advises us to guard our own minds, but also encourages us to seek virtuous company. People who respect others and act with wisdom and kindness. Surrounding yourself with such people creates a protective environment where humiliation loses its audience and, thus, its power. From a practical standpoint, when confronted with public humiliation, it is essential to remind yourself that your value is not defined by others' attempts to demean you in front of a crowd. Your dignity comes from within, from your character and your commitment to virtue. By responding with calmness and silent strength instead of visible distress, you demonstrate the ultimate form of resistance. This silent refusal to play into the humiliator's game is a demonstration of profound inner mastery, a hallmark of Stoic resilience. In addition, recognizing the humiliator's need for an audience helps you detach from personalizing their attacks. Their humiliation tactics say more about their fears and weaknesses than about any truth concerning you. When you shift your perspective to see humiliation as a performance driven by insecurity, you can respond with compassion or dispassionate observation rather than pain or anger. This psychological distance protects your peace and preserves your confidence. Finally, by embodying this Stoic wisdom and refusing to be a part of the humiliator's spectacle, you not only safeguard your own mind, but also set an example for others. You show that true power lies not in the applause of a crowd or the ability to humiliate, but in the quiet strength of self-control, dignity, and reason. In doing so, you break the cycle of humiliation and elevate the collective tone of any environment you inhabit. To summarize, those who humiliate in front of others are often seeking an audience to validate their fragile sense of self. By understanding this, detaching emotionally, and responding with calm dignity, you deny them the power they seek. This is the essence of Stoic strength, mastery over yourself and indifference to the fleeting judgments of the crowd. When you practice this, humiliation loses its sting, and you rise above as a person of true inner freedom and resilience. Number 6, they sense you don't know your worth. The final and perhaps most profound reason why people humiliate others in public is that they sense a lack of self-awareness or self-worth in their target. When someone detects that you don't fully recognize or embrace your own value, they see an opening, an opportunity to exploit your vulnerability. This is a painful but crucial truth to understand. The Stoics, known for their unflinching examination of human nature, teach that if you don't firmly stand in your own worth, others will try to define it for you. And too often, that definition comes wrapped in ridicule, sarcasm, or humiliation. At its core, this reason reveals a universal human dynamic. People gravitate toward weakness to exert power. When you don't have a clear, steady sense of your own dignity, your boundaries become blurred. The humiliator senses hesitation, insecurity, or confusion in how you present yourself. They pick up on subtle signs, a nervous laugh, avoiding eye contact, faltering speech, or defensive body language, and interpret these as a signal that their attacks can land successfully. Each sign of uncertainty acts like a green light, encouraging them to press harder, to escalate their humiliation in front of others. The Stoics teach us that true self-worth is not something granted by external approval or recognition, but something cultivated internally through virtue. Marcus Aurelius famously reminded himself and others that it never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. This is the paradox many face, giving away control over their self-esteem to those who seek to diminish them publicly. Seneca, another Stoic master, wrote that no one can truly harm your character unless you allow them to. The power to be humiliated depends entirely on your response and your belief in your own worth. If you internalize that your value comes from living according to reason, justice, courage, and self-control, then public attempts to shame you lose their sting. The Stoics encourage daily reflection on your own values, constantly asking yourself, am I acting according to my principles? Am I being true to my highest self? When your sense of worth is anchored in this internal compass, rather than the shifting tides of social approval, humiliation loses its foundation. Consider historical examples for deeper insight. Great figures like Nelson Mandela and Viktor Frankl endured immense public humiliation, imprisonment, and degradation. Yet their unshakable self-worth, grounded in their ideals, allowed them to transcend humiliation. Mandela's quiet dignity and steadfastness in the face of oppression disarmed his tormentors. Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, found meaning amid unimaginable suffering, holding on to an inner freedom that external cruelty could never touch. Their stories teach us that when you root your identity in virtue and purpose, public humiliation becomes powerless. In contrast, those who lack this clarity or have an unstable sense of self-worth are vulnerable. They might react with anger, shame, or desperation, reactions that only invite further humiliation. This cycle can be devastating, but it is not inevitable. The Stoics remind us that cultivating self-worth is a lifelong practice. It involves setting firm boundaries with others and ourselves, learning to discern genuine criticism from empty insults, and developing self-compassion. It means living deliberately, aligned with your values, and refusing to let others define your identity through their judgments. A practical way to build this inner fortress is through daily Stoic exercises, journaling about your virtues and setbacks, meditating on impermanence and control, and visualizing challenges before they happen. When you practice premeditatio malorum, the Stoic exercise of imagining potential misfortunes, you prepare your mind to remain steady, even if others try to humiliate you. This mental preparation strengthens your resilience and sharpens your sense of self-worth. Another key aspect is to cultivate a habit of viewing humiliation not as a reflection of your actual value, but as a reflection of the humiliator's own insecurities. Often, those who humiliate others do so because they themselves feel small, inadequate, or threatened. Understanding this dynamic helps you depersonalize the attack and maintain emotional distance. Your worth does not diminish because of someone else's need to assert power. Ultimately, sensing your worth is about reclaiming power over your own mind and refusing to be a pawn in someone else's game. It is about living with integrity so solid and a character so well-formed that no external insult can shake your foundation. This is the essence of Stoic resilience, a fortress of virtue that remains unbreachable regardless of public scorn or humiliation. When you embody this truth, you become an example to others. Your calm confidence, dignity, and unshakable self-respect inspire those around you to rise above petty attacks and social games. You show that true power lies not in dominating or humiliating others, but in mastering oneself. By doing so, you turn humiliation from a weapon wielded against you into an opportunity to demonstrate your inner freedom and strength. This is the victory Stoicism promises. Not the control over others or their opinions, but the mastery over your own mind. The humiliator may try to expose your vulnerabilities, but when you know your worth deeply and act from a place of virtue, their attempts become empty echoes that bounce harmlessly off the walls of your inner citadel. This profound sense of worth is the foundation on which you build your peace, your dignity, and ultimately, your freedom. Now that you understand the 6 real reasons why people try to humiliate you in front of others, remember this: their actions say far more about their own fears and insecurities than about your value. Stoicism teaches us that true strength comes not from controlling others, but from mastering ourselves, our reactions, our emotions, and our sense of worth. When you build this inner fortress of virtue and calm confidence, humiliation loses all its power over you. Use these insights to reclaim your dignity and set firm boundaries. Stand tall with quiet strength and refuse to let anyone diminish your light. If you found this video helpful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more wisdom on how to live with courage and clarity in a chaotic world. Share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you've risen above humiliation in your own life. Remember, the power to control your response is always yours. Stay strong, stay wise, and until next time, keep practicing the art of living well.